We are finally leaving Canada after 4 long years. It is official. On August the 2nd, I will be driving my kiddos down to the United States, and we will be residing inside the United States for who knows how long. We have a 10-year green card, but that is the plan. Our kids are being enrolled into school. And in this video, I want to talk about the tests that I had to face over the last 4 years to make this happen. And now the time has come to seize this opportunity. I want to share with you more than just a personal update on how we got here, but also lend some advice for any man that's watching this who feels like they're in a crisis maybe in their life, where you feel misaligned with, heck, the community you're in, the city, the country, your career, and you just know that you're stuck in a pattern that is not serving your future. So this whole thing has been a 4-year journey. We started in June of 2021. It's cost over $20,000. Throughout this process, there's been a separation, there's been a house that won't sell, and there's been multiple instances where there's been this back and forth of, hey, we're not ready to leave this country for so many different reasons. And I want to walk through because there was a lot of things that just kept saying, don't go, right? Don't go. This is a warning sign. Pay attention. But it all started when we were just realizing the instability in Canada many, many years ago. And for us, Canada represented very high costs of living, just practically. There's a lot of crime. We don't align with the politics. Just the pace of life is too fast. And Canada is just not what it once was. So we were always in alignment that this is not where we've been called to stay and to raise our children. And if we have a choice, why would we stay somewhere that is not in the best interest of our children and where we felt that we would thrive? So I just want to walk through the tests over the last 4 years that we had to face in order for this to happen. I want to just prepare you. Your journey might be completely different than mine, but I do believe that if there's anywhere worth going in life, there won't be shortcuts. There will be sacrifice, there will be pain, there will be costs involved. So the very first thing that we had to align with was just, do we want to leave this country? And that was the first thing. Now, I didn't even know where Tennessee was on the map. So that was something that I had to research. We had to go visit. I had to start to, see myself there. She was sold on it right from day one. But that was like the first obstacle. Are we even aligned? I like going to Florida. I had a lot of friends down in Florida. I don't know anybody in Tennessee, country music. It was just that was just the South. What? I don't know much about it. Do they have Italian food there? All these little practical things. So right there, first obstacle, where we aligned on the same destination. The second thing was just the legal maze. There was a massive legal maze that we had to figure out what type of green card do we go for, or do we go for a visa first? So what I did was the EB-1A for extraordinary ability. And we applied for that green card from Canada right around the pandemic, not knowing that there was a massive lineup. And this type of green card was deprioritized literally for 3 years, which I didn't know. So as a year went on, 2 years went on, I started seeking outside legal counsel, and I met another guy. He said, why did you take this path? I'm like, because this is the path I just spent a fortune on, that the lawyer advised us on. And again, they just didn't know the options. And this lawyer said, why don't you just get an O1 visa? It'll take 3 or 4 months, and then apply for the green card from inside the States, which is much faster. I'm like, I wish I knew that 2 years ago. All right. It's fine. Too late, but hey, okay, so that's what we did. I did get the O1 visa right away within about 3 or 4 months, just as he promised, as he advised. And then what happened, about a year later, the original EB-1A green card came through. Now what happens is they invite you down to Montreal, where you do this interview. And when you go to the interview, one of the mandatory requirements is to provide all of your medical records. And this brings me to the third obstacle. The medical records, when I say that, is you have to be fully vaccinated. Now, this was before Trump dropped the COVID vaccines. So we not only needed the COVID vaccines, but you need all your boosters as well. Not just for the adults, but for the kids. And on top of that, you need all of your medical records from childhood. So one, I didn't even know where to get mine because my mom couldn't find them. 𝗏𝘲 couldn't find her. So like, we didn't have our medical records of childhood vaccinations. And then our kids haven't had any of their childhood vaccinations. So like, how do we navigate this? So that was one of the biggest things. And when we were going to go through this waiver process, which could take 8 months to 12 months with no guarantee, it's very costly, over 5 figures in the processing fees, plus the lawyer fees to submit it and all that. I'm like, this is insane. So at that point, I just kind of surrendered the states because it was so overwhelming. It was like a full-time job to just do this paperwork without even any guarantee. So at this point, I just said, hey, I'll keep my ears out for opportunities till I figure out how to get these medical records. I didn't want to do anything legally. We want to do everything above board. And sure enough, literally, it wasn't even too long after I completely detached from letting go of the states emotionally and just saying, hey, God, if you want us to go, you open the door, you figure it out. But a pathway to get our medical records came available. And we seized that opportunity, and I'm not going to go into any details on that, but we were able to get our medical records fully updated and submitted to the doctor in Canada. He looked at everything, was like, this is great, you guys got it all done, good work, submitted it to the consular, and then literally 2 weeks later, I get a message from Canada Post that you have to submit your passports, like your passports are ready to be picked up. I messaged my lawyer, I said, what does this mean? And he said, yeah, you probably got them, checked the records online, and sure enough, we had approval status, like that. Now, it wasn't like that, but that was one of the biggest obstacles navigating, and it was the one obstacle I completely just laid down and said, hey, I'm gonna give up, I'm done. Like, this is just too much weight to try and press through. It's like too much weight to lift, and I need help lifting this. And that's where I truly just asked for help. If this is meant to be, you open the door, and that's what happened. Now, the fourth obstacle was this dream of going to the United States was supposed to be a dream for the family. All 5 of us were supposed to move to the States together. It wasn't supposed to be 2 separate houses with the kids going back and forth. That was not the dream. So there was a point in time where I just called the whole thing off. And I said, we're not doing this. This is ridiculous. Like, we don't have family. We don't have a support system. Like, it's way too unstable. This is not irresponsible. There's too many what ifs, like uprooting the kids. What if we have to come back? All these, like, again, a lot of fear-based thinking. And this was like, again, not the way the old Vince would make decisions, which was seeing this as an opportunity, seeing this as an adventure, making bold decisions, doing things that no one else in my family has ever done. And I realized that the fearful Vince, the security-based Vince was kind of taking over, only because I was overwhelmed with all of the potential downsides and to potential risks and fears that could still come to bear. But I realized this isn't how I became successful, by playing it safe, by not pursuing doors being opened. And what a once in a lifetime opportunity is to move to the United States and give your kids a different opportunity. So I'm like, hey, let's do this. The other obstacle, the fifth thing, is this massive financial burden we've been carrying for over 2.5 years, which is this dang house, this beautiful dream house that we spent too much money on in this particular neighborhood. All right, we spent over $5 million on a house where most of the houses are between 2.5 to low 3 millions. So people don't understand why they would spend $5 million in a neighborhood where they're almost twice the price when they can go into other neighborhoods and spend the same amount and be around houses of the same price point. So we've had a heck of a time selling this home. Now, I believe it will sell because it's got a beautiful view, amazing privacy. I believe privacy is the new luxury, and I believe the right people will see this home as their future home. But this financial burden of heck, almost $35,000 Canadian a month. You can do the math over the last 2.5 years. Like, that's money that should be going into savings, investing, profit, but it's just going to pay for an asset that we bit off more than we could chew. So that has been a massive stress. And it is still not sold. So what's the obstacle? Well, to move down there confidently, it would be nice to have the equity out of that house so that we can both get separate homes and, you know, stabilize. But I'm going to have to get into a rental before we get this stuff stabilized. So again, there's still an obstacle here, but we are trusting that it will work out. It's so interesting, just to wrap up here. I was reading in my devotional this morning. This is a great book, and it's so weird because this author, Pastor 𝗂𝘂𝗁𝗂𝗃, is literally at my house right now in Franklin, Tennessee. He's staying there for a week with his family. They're on vacation. He's an incredible pastor from Ireland, and he's become a friend of mine. He's got an incredible Instagram account, and it's so crazy that I was reading what I was just sharing with you this morning in my devotional, and he talks a lot about how to make decisions in your life, which is what I want to leave you with. And the question comes to, like, does this situation in my life need to be renovated or completely replaced? And I just want to read to you just something really briefly, because you can likely relate to outgrowing relationships, careers, and just even tolerations with people in your life. And I think a lot of us, what we try to do is we try to patch something up that actually needs to be renovated. Why? Because it feels more costly to replace. Not financially sometimes, but emotionally and relationally. The price of discarding the old feels too high, right? Friendships might get fractured, right? I was fearful, like, what's my family gonna think? My cousins are gonna think for just leaving them here in Canada, right? People are gonna misunderstand my motives. What, does Vince not care about his family? Is Vince just all in it for himself? Is he that selfish guy that's just looking out for himself? You have too much invested already, right? I've got too much here in Canada, right? I'm familiar here, right? There's a lot going, I do have going here that I could just say, hey, this is pretty good. I should be happy. I should be content with this, right? You're not sure where else you would go. You have no viable alternative. There's security and predictability in your current situation, right? You're waiting for something major to happen, and then you're gonna walk away. Until then, you'll keep patching things over and over, trying to make it work. You hope that a temporary solution can cover a permanent problem, but deep down you know that you're only postponing the inevitable. And as I just read this, I was thinking to myself, like, again, this is tough to share because I have a lot of friends who live here in Canada and in Toronto here, and I almost feel like, you know, I'm, you know, disrespecting people who've chosen to live here, and that's great. If you love living here, that's amazing. But I have realized I do not want my fears and influences to come from other people's fears and influences. And right now, my soul is being sucked dry living here. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't feel like there's anything left here in Toronto for me, right? Have I found the things that I like here? Yes. Could I figure it out? Yes. But why would I settle when I can thrive and try something else out? And even if it doesn't work out, then I could come back, worst case scenario. So I'm not gonna stay stuck. And I think we have to look at the cost of staying is always gonna be greater than the cost of going. And when things do work out and work in your favor, you will see, like, wow, it was hurting me more than helping me by staying. If you're lacking the confidence to make a courageous decision, maybe because you feel like you're in a rut, check out this video next, and it's a step-by-step roadmap for quickly getting out of a rut. See you in the next one.